There was once a young man who carried a dream so big that it seemed impossible to everyone around him. From a very young age, he imagined a future different from the one he was living. While others were satisfied with ordinary goals, he wanted something greater. He wanted to build a life that would inspire people, prove his worth, and show the world what determination could achieve. The dream lived in his mind every day and every night. It was the first thing he thought about when he woke up, and the last thing he remembered before falling asleep. But dreams are often tested before they become reality. The young man quickly discovered that wanting success and achieving success were two very different things. His first attempt ended in failure. He felt disappointed, but he convinced himself that failure was only temporary. He gathered his courage and tried again. The second attempt failed too. Then came the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Every time he believed he was getting closer, life pushed him back even further. Months turned into years, and the failures continued to pile up. Some failures were small, while others were painful enough to break his confidence completely. He invested his time, energy, and emotions into every effort, only to watch the results fall apart. There were days when he returned home exhausted, wondering why nothing ever worked for him. He saw other people succeeding with less effort while he struggled just to make progress. As his failures increased, so did the criticism around him. At first, his friends encouraged him. They told him to keep going and assured him that success would come soon. But after watching him fail repeatedly, their attitude began to change. Encouragement slowly turned into doubt. Some friends started questioning his decisions. Others laughed behind his back. A few even told him directly that he was wasting his time chasing something that would never happen. His family was not much different. They cared about him, but they could not understand why he refused to give up. They wanted him to choose a safer path, one that guaranteed stability and comfort. Every family gathering became a reminder of his struggles. Relatives would ask questions about his progress, and he never had good news to share. Their expressions revealed what they were thinking even when they stayed silent. They believed he was holding onto a fantasy. The pressure became heavier with every passing year. The young man began to feel trapped between his dream and the expectations of others. Sometimes he would sit alone in his room late at night, staring at the ceiling and wondering if everyone else was right. Maybe he was chasing something impossible. Maybe he was not talented enough. Maybe success was only meant for certain people, and he simply was not one of them. These thoughts became frequent visitors in his mind. Self-doubt followed him everywhere. Whenever he started a new project, a voice inside his head reminded him of every previous failure. Whenever he felt hopeful, another voice warned him not to expect too much. The battle was no longer against obstacles in the outside world. The battle was now happening inside his own mind. There were moments when he came dangerously close to quitting. He imagined what life would be like if he stopped trying. No more pressure. No more disappointment. No more painful failures. The idea seemed tempting. He could choose an easier path and avoid the constant struggle. Many people would even approve of his decision. Yet every time he considered giving up, something stopped him. Deep inside his heart, the dream was still alive. No matter how many times life knocked him down, a small part of him refused to surrender. That tiny spark of hope survived every failure. It reminded him why he started in the first place. It reminded him that meaningful achievements rarely come without sacrifice. The young man understood that failure had become a permanent part of his journey. Instead of running from it, he slowly learned to accept it. Every rejection taught him something new. Every mistake revealed a weakness he needed to improve. Every setback showed him an area where he could grow stronger. Although the failures hurt, they were also shaping him into a different person. Most people only saw the results of his failures. They did not see the lessons hidden inside them. They did not see the discipline he was building, the patience he was developing, or the resilience he was gaining. They judged his situation based on where he was, not on who he was becoming. Still, the road remained difficult. There were mornings when motivation disappeared completely. There were nights when tears filled his eyes because he felt exhausted from fighting a battle that never seemed to end. The weight of disappointment became almost unbearable. Yet somehow, he always found a reason to continue. He began to realize that success was not only about reaching a destination. It was also about becoming the kind of person who could handle challenges without breaking. Each failure was teaching him endurance. Each rejection was strengthening his character. The journey was slowly transforming him into someone far stronger than the person who had started years earlier. While the world saw a struggling dreamer, he saw something different. He saw unfinished potential. He saw a story that was not over yet. He knew that as long as he continued moving forward, there was still a chance for things to change. The possibility of success remained alive, even if nobody else believed in it. And so, despite the endless failures, despite the growing doubts, despite the criticism from friends and family, he continued holding on to his dream. It was not because he was certain of success. It was because he could not imagine living with the regret of never trying. Every setback tested his determination, but none of them managed to destroy it. Deep inside, he still believed that one day all the failures, all the struggles, and all the sacrifices would finally make sense. The years of failure had left deep scars on the young man's confidence, but they had also taught him something valuable. He realized that every setback carried a lesson hidden within it. At first, he used to see failure as proof that he was not good enough. But over time, his perspective began to change. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" he started asking, "What can this teach me?" That simple change in thinking transformed the way he approached his journey. Every mistake became an opportunity to improve. Whenever something went wrong, he carefully studied the reason behind it. He analyzed his decisions, examined his weaknesses, and searched for ways to become better. While many people allowed failure to destroy their confidence, he allowed failure to become his teacher. The lessons were painful, but they were valuable. With every setback, he gained knowledge that no classroom could ever provide. The journey remained difficult. Success still seemed far away, and progress often felt slow. There were days when he worked tirelessly and saw no results. There were weeks when it seemed as if all his efforts were meaningless. Yet he refused to stop. He understood that meaningful goals required patience. Great achievements were rarely built overnight. They were built through small actions repeated consistently over long periods of time. The young man developed a routine that kept him moving forward even when motivation disappeared. He learned that motivation was unreliable. Some mornings he felt inspired, but on many others he felt exhausted and discouraged. If he waited for motivation, he would never make progress. Instead, he chose discipline. He continued working whether he felt like it or not. He showed up every day and did what needed to be done. As months passed, he became stronger. He improved skills that had once held him back. He read books, watched tutorials, practiced for hours, and constantly searched for ways to grow. Every day he tried to become slightly better than he had been the day before. The improvements were small at first, almost invisible. But over time, those small improvements began to add up. While others spent their evenings complaining about their problems, he spent his evenings working on solutions. While others searched for excuses, he searched for opportunities. He understood that nobody was coming to save him. If he wanted a different future, he would have to build it himself. That realization pushed him to work harder than ever before. The people around him continued to doubt him. Friends who once supported him now questioned why he was still trying. Some told him that he was wasting the best years of his life. Others laughed at his persistence and predicted that he would fail again. Their words hurt, but he learned not to let those opinions control his actions. He understood that people often judge dreams based on their own limitations. His family worried about him as well. They could see how much effort he was putting into his goal, yet the results remained uncertain. They wanted him to choose a safer path. Their concern came from love, but it also increased the pressure he already felt. Sometimes he wondered if they were right. Sometimes he questioned whether continuing was the smart choice. Yet every time doubt entered his mind, he remembered how far he had already come. He remembered the person he used to be. Years earlier, he had lacked experience, discipline, and confidence. Now he was stronger in every way. The failures had not defeated him. They had shaped him. He realized that quitting would erase all the progress he had fought so hard to achieve. One evening, after another disappointing setback, he sat alone thinking about his future. The room was silent except for the sound of the clock on the wall. He reflected on every struggle, every rejection, and every sacrifice he had endured. He thought about the countless hours of work that nobody had seen. He thought about the moments when he wanted to quit but kept going anyway. For the first time, he understood something important. Success was never guaranteed. No matter how hard he worked, there was always a chance that things might not turn out the way he hoped. But he also realized that failure was guaranteed if he stopped trying. Quitting would remove every possibility of achieving his dream. That realization changed everything. Instead of focusing on fear, he focused on opportunity. Instead of worrying about what could go wrong, he concentrated on what could go right. He stopped comparing himself to others and began competing only with the person he had been yesterday. The next few months became the most intense period of his journey. He worked harder than ever before. Every day started early and ended late. He eliminated distractions and devoted himself completely to improvement. Whenever obstacles appeared, he found ways around them. Whenever challenges tested him, he refused to back down. People noticed his determination, but they still doubted the outcome. Most of them believed he was fighting a losing battle. They expected him to become tired and eventually give up like so many others had done. After all, years of effort had produced very little visible success. To them, continuing seemed pointless. But the young man had reached a different conclusion. He knew that giving up would haunt him for the rest of his life. He would always wonder what might have happened if he had tried one more time. He would always question whether success had been just around the corner. One night, after reflecting on his entire journey, he made a decision. It was a decision that would define the next chapter of his life. He decided that he would make one final attempt, not because he was certain it would work, but because he wanted to give everything he had. He wanted to leave no room for regret. This final attempt would be different from all the others. It would be fueled by every lesson he had learned, every mistake he had corrected, and every challenge he had overcome. Years of failure had prepared him for this moment. The pain, the doubt, the criticism, and the struggle had all contributed to the person he had become. As he prepared for this last effort, a sense of calm replaced the fear that had followed him for so long. He knew the outcome was uncertain, but he also knew he had grown stronger than ever before. Regardless of what happened, he would face the challenge with courage and determination. While everyone else expected him to surrender, he chose to fight one more time. While others saw the end of a journey, he saw one final opportunity. And with renewed determination burning inside his heart, he stepped forward, ready to make the attempt that would change everything. The day of the final attempt arrived, and the young man felt both excitement and nervousness. Years of failures, sacrifices, and lessons had prepared him for this moment. Unlike before, he no longer feared failure. He felt ready. As he began, he focused on applying everything he had learned. The mistakes that once held him back had become lessons, and his weaknesses had turned into strengths. The journey was still difficult. Challenges appeared, but this time he faced them with confidence. Instead of panicking, he relied on the experience he had gained through years of struggle. Slowly, things started to change. Small victories appeared. Opportunities that once seemed impossible became real. Doors that had been closed for years finally began to open. Days turned into weeks, and his efforts started producing visible results. At first, he could hardly believe it. After facing disappointment for so long, success felt unfamiliar. Yet with each passing day, progress continued. The dream he had carried in his heart for years was finally becoming reality. Then the breakthrough arrived. The moment he had dreamed about during countless sleepless nights finally came true. When he realized he had succeeded, he sat quietly and reflected on his journey. He remembered every failure, every rejection, and every sacrifice. Tears filled his eyes, not because of the success itself, but because he had survived everything that tried to stop him. News of his success spread quickly. The same people who once doubted him now praised his determination. Friends congratulated him, and family members expressed pride in his achievement. Many called him lucky, but he knew the truth. His success was not the result of luck. It was the result of persistence. What others saw as overnight success was actually years of hard work. They saw the victory, but not the countless hours of effort behind it. The young man realized that success rarely happens suddenly. It is usually built through years of preparation that nobody notices. As his life improved, new opportunities appeared everywhere. Recognition followed, and doors opened that once seemed impossible to enter. Yet the greatest reward was not money or fame. It was the confidence that came from knowing he had refused to quit. Looking back, he understood that every failure had played an important role in his success. Without those setbacks, he would never have gained the knowledge, discipline, and resilience needed to achieve his goal. He also realized something even more important. If he had quit during his darkest moments, he would never have experienced his breakthrough. This taught him a powerful lesson. Many people do not fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they quit too soon. They stop when success is much closer than they realize. They walk away just before their breakthrough arrives. Inspired by this realization, he began sharing his story with others. He wanted people to understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is often a part of success. Every mistake teaches a lesson, every setback creates growth, and every challenge builds strength. His journey became proof that persistence pays off. The dream that once seemed impossible had become reality because he refused to surrender. And as he looked back on everything he had endured, he carried one lesson with him forever. Never quit, because your breakthrough may be waiting just beyond the obstacle that makes you want to give up.